Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are and wherever you're going. Welcome to another episode of the Dierks and Denver Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Dierks, joined by my beautiful co-host and best friend, Denver. Today, we're talking about the NFL Draft, a kind of a retrospective about our favorite teams, kind of our favorite picks of the draft, stuff like that. It's going to be a good time. Also, looking ahead to the final days of the NBA regular season and the play-in tournament and playoffs that will ensue. But before we get into any of that today, I have to know, Denver, how are you doing?
Oh, I am fantastic. I am always grand. I am never unspectacular, unfreaking not great. I am feeling it. I was up early today. I've been doing stuff all day. Now I'm here. I'm ready to talk about the draft. My favorite sport, the NBA, and well, basketball, but like the NBA. And so it'll be good. It's a good day.
You do have a little bit of kind of a what's the word I want? Maybe bouncy kind of energy to you today.
I
You
do.
just kind of vibing. I like this. This should be a good one. Now, this will probably be what we might consider a warm up to very regular podcasts for the next several weeks. We obviously just said that the NBA playoffs are coming up. I anticipate we will be tuning into those and voicing our opinions on those with fair regularity. However, no podcast this weekend.
Yeah. You want to tell them why?
I will tell them why. I'm glad I get to drop this at the beginning of the show. We might talk about it a little further at the end because I know you watched a little bit this weekend. But my alma mater, the South Dakota State University Jackrabbits, are playing for a national title in the FCS football playoffs in Frisco, Texas this weekend. And I was lucky enough to draw some tickets. I'm going to Frisco with my father. It's going to be a good time. And so I will not be around to record any such podcast. It would be Denver alone, and I'm not sure that he could hold all the water by himself. So he gets the weekend off. I'm going to have a good time down in Texas. We're going to come back, and we're both going to be refreshed for probably a midweek pod next week for the
Yep.
NBA playoffs.
Very much true. One thing that you were talking about regular podcast, it seems like midway through the NBA playoffs podcast, low-key starts up on Wednesday, June 9th.
Ooh. That is
So,
coming up. Dude, I think April just disappeared. I swear.
yeah, it was here and gone in
It
a
like
minute.
we had that NCAA national title game, and then like we blinked, and it was the NFL draft, and that was the last day of April. That was wild. By the
Very much.
way, before we get into this, whoever joined us for the live show, popping in and out, thank you for that. It was a fun time. We hung out for the better part of 3 hours and just talked some football, talked some crap with a couple people that dropped in the chat. It was a good time. And
Discussed our favorite children's movie.
yes, all sorts of random conversations, but that was probably my favorite.
Yes.
Anyways, you all were promised some NFL draft talk, so we'll get into that right off the rip. If you haven't been here before, welcome. Denver is a Bears fan
Yes.
and kind of a adopted Kansas City Chiefs fan. It's a weird relationship on that front. We're not going to go too much into that. We're going to focus on the Bears for him today. And I am a Pittsburgh Steelers fan living in no man's land, but that's neither here nor there. I've been a Steelers fan my whole life. So Denver
You
can
know,
promise that I'm not a bandwagoner.
you mentioned adopted Kansas City fan. It's like I started dating Brittany, and her mother-in-law was the Kansas City Chiefs, and so my mother, her mother was the Kansas City Chiefs, and my mother-in-law now is the Chiefs. So it's pretty good. But we won't talk about the Chiefs. I don't care. They're good. They're going to be good for the next like 8 years.
Yeah,
They're fine.
they're going to do their thing. And so we're going to focus to start, I think, if Denver's on board with this. We'll go through the Bears and the Steelers draft classes. We're going to talk both and kind of grade, in a way, I guess, each other's teams' drafts as well as our own. Um, to see where we differ, where we can draw some conversation out. So, Denver, would you like to start with your team, or would you like to start by roasting mine?
Now let's save yours for the end.
Let's save the Steelers for second.
Because let me tell you, the Steelers draft was poo-poo.
We're not going to spoil anything.
In my opinion, the Steelers draft was.
Hey! We're going to get to that in a minute. You said you wanted to start with the Bears. We're not talking about the Steelers right now. Okay, right. We're throwing it up on the screen. Very professional graphics. I just found what I could. Here we have it. The Bears draft class, headlined by them moving up in the first round to get Justin Fields, and then they moved up again in the second round and selected Tevin Jenkins, as well as Larry Borum, Khalil Herbert, Daz Newsome, Thomas Graham Jr., and Kiris Tonga. Maybe said that wrong, but I tried my best. That's all that matters, right? All right, Denver, where would you like to start?
Well, let's start off with Justin Fields.
Imagine that. I would have never guessed you wanted to start there.
Yeah, I mean, we can start with Daz Newsome if you want to.
No. We'll take it from the top.
So Justin Fields could be considered the second best quarterback in this draft.
Definitely could.
You can make arguments for it. I think he has to me, and this is a biased fan point.
I'm glad he admits that now. I'm excited to see what he says.
He has possibly the best potential out of all of these quarterbacks. He has the highest potential.
I'm gonna disagree, but I'm not saying he has very low potential. I just think that maybe the guy who went number 1 overall, if everything pans out, I think Trevor Lawrence could be otherworldly, but I'm not saying Justin Fields can't be really, really, really good.
Well, and that's the thing, and that's why I say he has the most. I feel like the Bears overall, they proved this draft, like their GM Ryan Pace at least proved he's willing to do some really risky things and draft actual players that will make contributions to our team, and that starts with Justin Fields. Mm-hmm. Look, he has said, they have gone on record and said Justin Fields is not going to start for us. But I don't see that lasting. I don't see I think the pressure of drafting such a talented quarterback.
Well, realistically, that makes sense, right? It's not often we see teams draft a quarterback in the first round, especially the way the Bears did moving up. So they sent away some picks in order to move up and get him. You usually don't do that unless you have both short and long-term plans. You're not gonna use your first round pick on somebody who can't make an impact until years down the road.
And that's something that's where I say he has the most potential, is because the Bears overall, they're the Bears. We get it, ha ha ha. But they have really good pieces in place already for him to come in and be good. We got a decent receiving core. We'll get to the offensive line here in a minute. He's set up for success. I have a hard time believing that Jacksonville is setting up Trevor Lawrence for success.
That's obviously, where if you take everything into account, Justin Fields landed in a pretty good spot. Definitely better than Trevor Lawrence, but that shouldn't come as a shock, right? If you're getting drafted first overall, it means two things. One, you're really, really freaking good. And two, the team you're going to is really, really freaking not good.
Yeah.
So usually, if at all, because sometimes obviously we see teams will say ruin players. It was a joke for a long time that the Browns ruined a lot of players. And so we don't want to see that obviously for anybody, but I'm thinking that I understand where you're coming from in terms of the situation is more favorable towards Fields, you would say.
Yeah. And you have to look at it from this perspective as well. He is a talented very talented player. I have his stats up here that I can look over at. Threw for about 5,300 yards, 63 touchdowns, 9 interceptions with 867 rushing yards, 15 rushing touchdowns over 22 games. That's pretty impressive. And those are things that, you have to look at for me. And here's the thing, is if Justin Field doesn't start, he's learning behind two very veteran quarterbacks and Nick Foles and Andy Dalton. Are they the best quarterbacks in the world? No. But they
They've
have
been around the
experience.
block.
Exactly. They've been in the league. They know what to expect. They understand the pace of the game. And that's a teachable thing. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like Justin Fields is a very teachable guy. Overall, I think Justin Fields was an A-plus pick for the Bears. That's really all I can say before I ramble on too much more. I think it was an A-plus pick. We needed a quarterback, and I'm very happy the Bears stepped up and made that trade. Because that's a big move. They gave up some draft picks under the understanding that this guy has only potential to change our team.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to change our team, but he has potential to change the team. And those are some things that I really think about. How do you feel about the Justin Fields pick?
So going back, and I'll kind of touch on some different things that you said there. I think that Justin Fields' college production, undeniable, very good, but that's what you expect out of a first rounder. Even a second and a third rounder, you're expecting them to be great college players. Ohio State always has good receivers too, so you got to figure he's, the competition he's playing combined with the players he has around him, he's going to have those stats. Now it's how, in what, I guess, manner do you get them? And of course, he looks the part, right? He's not the biggest guy, but he's not small either. He can push the ball down the field. And then, of course, as is becoming more of the norm in the NFL, he's mobile enough. He's not really a runner, but he's definitely very athletic and can run and use his feet as a weapon. This is going to go back to something I said in the live show, but of course, we decided to make that only available live, and I did not repost that, so we can bring stuff onto here and not sound like we're repeating ourselves, right? In the moment, we both graded this pick, and I don't remember exactly what grade both of us gave. I think you gave it an A or an A plus, even in the moment, and I either gave it a B minus or a C plus.
I think so, yeah.
I'm going to explain that now because I only gave it a grade from one perspective, and I explained that in the moment too. But here's my thought process. I really think this pick needs two separate grades. The long term, or the longer-ish, I guess, term, and the shorter term, like in terms of addressing a extreme need, right? I was grading from that second perspective. They already are investing so much money into the quarterback room between Nick Foles and
Andy
Dalton that bringing in another quarterback feels now like that quarterback room is very, very crowded. I think I made the comment on draft night that now, no matter what, the Bears have the best third string quarterback in the NFL. Because no matter which one of those guys falls third on the depth chart, there's no way that another team can beat out what they would have in terms of depth. It's just that obviously the ceiling isn't quite as high, right? In the short term. Now, that's why I gave it the C plus B minus. If you're talking in terms of the long term, how this can impact my team, then definitely you got to give this pick and what Ryan Pace did, you got to give it at least an A. It's probably an A plus because obviously the plan is not to stick with Andy Dalton and or Nick Foles long term. That was never the plan. But to have the chutzpah to use your first round pick to pick those guys' replacement now, even though you just invested that money in them, right? Especially Andy Dalton. Like we saw not too long ago, Andy Dalton came out and said, I chose Chicago because Chicago told me I'm the guy, right?
Yep.
But to go out and instead of getting a piece that's maybe a more immediate need, you went out and got Justin Fields, and this has the potential that if this works out, this is going to impact the Bears for a very long time in a positive way.
Yeah, and I want to, before we wrap up and move on, one thing that you said that clicked in me is the long-term gain, right? We're talking long-term. The Bears are playing a long-term game. They realize this season 50-50 toss-up, how well they play. They got Andy Dalton under the assumption that all four of the best quarterbacks in this draft were going to be taken very early on. They would have no shot. When Justin Fields got to the 11th pick and he was still on the board, the Bears needed to jump and do what they had to do to get him.
Mm-hmm.
So they're playing a long-term game because we signed Andy Dalton 1 year, $10 million. Okay, well that's fine. Whatever. But next year, that's free cap room.
Do you know how much Nick Foles has left on his contract?
I think he only has 1 year left too.
I had no idea. That was just a genuine question.
Right, I think it's either 1 year or maybe 2. I'm looking it up. Let's see. He has. I'm trying to find it.
That's all good. I mean, we can.
So he's been with the team. So he becomes a free agent in 2023. So he still has 2 years left on his contract. So, but and you're right. That is a lot of money. But who would you? I mean, he's gonna learn from a Super Bowl MVP. So I mean, that's the caveat. So with that, the Bears are playing a long-term game, and I'm glad they addressed their quarterback situation. So maybe next year in the offseason, they can address other needs. And I thought they would address like the offensive line, but we traded up again in the second round to get probably your favorite player because you talked about him all draft.
I did talk about him a lot of the first round. I thought a lot of teams would pick him earlier.
Yeah, Tevin Jenkins, 6'6", 317 pounds. I saw a crazy stat, and I wish I had it pulled up, but it was that last time Tevin Jenkins allowed a sack from his position was, I think, 2018. It was 700 snaps.
It was the dude. I said this on draft night as well. The dude impressed me because when I hadn't, who often studies offensive tackle tape if you're not, like a scout or like heavily involved in that kind of area. But I ran across a video of Tevin Jenkins, and the dude just, I had to click on it because it was kind of a clickbaity title. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I watched the entire video and I was like, that dude is a badass. He blocks angry. And as you said, for blocking angry, he still is very sound in the like technique side of things. He doesn't get himself in a lot of trouble, and he probably will end up being a day one starter at one of the tackle positions. For the Bears.
That stat, I found it. It hasn't allowed a quarterback sack since week 11 of 2018. That equals up to 778 pass block attempts.
That's a few.
So you talked highly of him. I was all hyped.
Well,
I thought
and you can confirm this. I was running around doing stuff on day 2 of the draft, but as soon as I saw the Bears traded up and they picked him, I texted you immediately. Yeah. And like that text was, I think it was all caps. It had very many exclamation points. I was excited. Like, low key, I wanted the Steelers to maybe move up and get this guy, or like pray that he fell to the Steelers in round 2, something, because I love this guy and what he the attitude he plays football with.
Yeah, one of the things, and you were talking about how great he is. And people don't realize is that he didn't even play last season. He didn't play last season due to COVID concern, or no, after 7 games to get healthy for the draft. So he played 7 games last
Yeah,
year
I was about
and
to say I
decided
think he started the season and
okay,
then
yeah.
didn't finish. Yeah.
So I'm excited. That makes me happy that the Bears were like, "Hey, man, this guy's still here. He's a first round pick, but we can snag him in the second round. Play one of those tackle positions. We did cut Charles Leno Jr. About a week after the draft, so maybe he fills that position because that I assume that would be Justin Fields' blindside. So I'm excited. I think you hyped him up to me, and then we got him, and it just made me happy.
Obviously, those are
Talking,
the two headliners, and
yeah,
so we can not breeze, but I mean, if you have anything you want to say about the rest of the guys and what you've learned about them in the weeks after, we can definitely talk about that. But I mean,
yeah,
I'm not gonna lie to you. It's not like I watched film on Larry Borum, the guard from
yeah.
Missouri. I'm gonna be real with you. I didn't even know he was a guy until kind of studying up for this pod. I
Uh,
recognize names. Obviously, the next three names on the list: Khalil Herbert, Daz Newsome, Thomas Graham Jr. I know all three of those guys, and they were all really good football players. Um, Go ahead.
okay, so I'll breeze through them. Larry, how do you like Borum?
I would say Borum. That makes sense.
Borum. A coworker I work with is a big Mizzou guy,
Oh,
so
of course.
uh he was pretty excited. He said he's an okay player. He needs some time to develop overall, but he's pretty good.
Obviously, we
Khalil,
should say right. They took Justin Fields 11th overall. They took Tevin Jenkins 39th overall. They didn't have another pick until like the tail end of the fourth round, right? Or is that
yep.
the yeah pick 151? So they went a long time without having a pick as a result of
Um,
making those two trades up to get those guys. So
Khalil Herbert, he's a very good. He has some work to do. Apparently, he's not the best like pass blocker, and he needs to work on his catching a little bit. Daz Newsome, we
I
needed
like
another
this
wide
guy.
receiver.
I'm gonna be real with you. I think North Carolina they were a really good team this last year. And obviously, a lot of that has to do with their quarterback. Their quarterback's probably going to be one of the top 10 picks next year. But they had two really good guys at wide receiver, Daz Newsome being one of them. And so I think you guys got a potential, like good third, fourth wide receiver right here.
Um, with Thomas Graham Jr., it was a case of we cut Kyle Fuller, we let him go, so we needed to find another corner. Apparently, he's a pretty good corner. He did opt out of last season because of COVID, and he did have a shoulder injury his junior year at Oregon. So that all plays a factor. And then I don't know why we drafted a DT for our last pick, unless we just wanted a big old boy. Because our defensive line is god tier. Like
Hey, you can never have enough depth, right?
I mean, yeah, when you think about it like that. So overall, I give the Bears draft, I'll give it an A. I'm not gonna give it an A plus. I'll give it an A minus actually. A couple of later picks, like I found out that Daz Newsome in my research here, one of the reasons that he wasn't like picked a lot or picked higher was because he had a lot of dropped passes last season. So that worries me. But I give it an A. The first half of the draft, I'll even say to Larry Borum, is fairly good. I'm excited. Now the second half, I mean, what can you kind of expect? We don't know,
I mean,
but
yeah, four of your seven picks were picked 217 or later, so those are the last 40 picks of the draft.
yeah.
It's not saying you can't find talent there, but obviously it's not like you're not going to find guys of the caliber of your first three players that late in the draft.
So overall, I give it an A. I think the Bears set up for the future because we kind of already created our present before the draft, which is unfortunate. But we did set up for our future. And if Justin Fields doesn't play this season, like if some off chance he doesn't play at all, and they do take the Patrick Mahomes route, at least Tevin Jenkins and Larry Borum will both play in the season, so they will have experience, and it'll be good that they'll have experience protecting Justin Fields whenever he does start.
Yeah, I think I would also, I'd probably be right there in that A minus range, basically because of your first two picks. I think you guys probably, that you probably had the best first second round pick combo. I mean, you could compare that to any other team, and it'd be right up there. You guys had a top 5 draft. Like there wasn't 5 teams that had a better draft than the Bears.
According to the NFL.com, we had the number 1 rated draft.
Like I said, you 100%. Like, you guys killed it for the first time in, I feel like, a long time. I feel like the Bears were one of those teams that kind of got pushed around and mocked a little bit on draft night as of late, but I think you guys did all right this time around.
Well, thank you. Thank you for giving us a high grade. I appreciate that. Talk about not high grades, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's get into it.
God damn it.
I want a preference before we started this. We're sitting in Discord and I say, "Man, did they release the NFL's schedule?" And Dirks is like, "Yep." And I asked him
I said no, they have not. They don't release the full schedule until an hour and 45 minutes after right now.
Okay, anyway, the Steelers draft. Okay, first off, timeout. I like how you got this fancy graphic.
I literally went on Twitter and typed in Chicago Bears draft 2021 and picked the first thing I found, and then swapped out Chicago Bears for Pittsburgh Steelers and picked the first thing I found. So don't even hate on me. It just is the way Twitter presented it to me. I can prove that.
And so, buddy, let's get into it. Tell me about the Pittsburgh Steelers.
They have 6 Super Bowl championships.
They
They are arguably the best franchise in the history of the NFL. And yeah, there's not an organization that I'd rather play for than the Pittsburgh Steelers if I'm a player. There, I've told you about the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, thank you. Now tell me about their 21-21 draft picks.
We took Najee Harris in the first round. And then...
Is it...
Sorry, what?
Is that a good thing?
I told you this during our live show too. I wanted Najee Harris. I don't know. There was something about him. I don't very often advocate for taking running backs early on, but after the way the Steelers running game performed last year, with kind of no disrespect to James Conner, but as with your lead back being kind of a relative no name in the sense of it, like James Conner was, I think, like a 4th or a 5th round pick, and it just didn't work out. And I'm not saying you can't find 4th or 5th round picks to get the job done, because obviously a lot of teams do. But we needed to have an impact player at that position, because James Conner was the best one we had, and now he's gone. So
yeah, who did he sign with?
Arizona. So now I think our running back room is Anthony McFarland Jr. and I can't remember Benny Snell. Benny Snell. Why couldn't I think of Benny Snell's name?
I forgot he was even a player.
I like Benny Snell a lot, but I don't think he's a 3-down running back. Obviously, I think Najee Harris is. I just really like the way Najee Harris runs. So while it's a running back in round 1, I don't hate it. Especially because the only other thing I think the Steelers could have or should have done is get an offensive lineman. And by that point, a lot of the offensive linemen had kind of been snapped up other than Tevin Jenkins. He'd been like the one guy I think I'd have been happy with the Steelers taking right there. That wasn't like a skill position player. So I was happy with the Najee Harris pick. Really not going to lie to you. Pat Freiermuth, a really good football player, but I was shocked as hell when the Steelers took a tight end in round 2. Apparently they thought that was a position of need. I didn't think the tight ends were awful last year, but
do you have any of them back who played for you last year?
I thought
Eric Ebron.
I thought
Eric Ebron.
Go ahead.
Didn't he go? Who signed with the Patriots this offseason?
Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry.
Okay, I was thinking of Jonnu Smith and Eric Ebron. I switched the names. Okay, so Eric Ebron. Okay.
Yeah. Um. Obviously, I'm gonna be real with you. I was not a huge fan of the Steelers draft either, but I'm gonna say this as well. I'm very rarely a fan of the Steelers drafts. I think the Steelers front office takes a very different approach to the draft than most other teams, but the Steelers also win a lot of games. So like, what they do works, even though their approach is relatively unorthodox, and they take a lot of guys that, if you ask the quote unquote experts, they reach for a lot of guys. They do some weird stuff, which is why if you look at any like, NFL.com, Pro Football Focus, anybody that like graded draft classes, while the Bears were in like the top 5, top 3, maybe even the best conversation, the Steelers were in the bottom 5, bottom 3, possibly the worst conversation, according to the experts. And there's not a whole lot of flash in this Steelers class, quite obviously, because outside of Najee Harris, there's not really anyone on that list that like kind of lights your hair on fire,
I just like Isaiah Loudermilk's last name, Loudermilk.
I'm glad that's your input on this draft class. I'm very Kendrick Green. I after looking at some tape on him, I'm kind of excited. He's not the most polished offensive lineman in the world. He is an interior offensive lineman from Illinois, if you are unfamiliar. But he's another guy who kind of like blocks angry. He has like an attitude. So I don't hate that pick at all. I think he's a really good pickup, and hopefully he makes some sort of impact, because another guy that the Steelers took, I think it was just last year, oh God, now I'm on the spot and I can't think of his name. Pause. Anyway, it's going to bug me, so I have to go look it up, obviously.
Now this Kendrick, is he a center or is he a guard?
He's both.
Oh, okay.
He can play either. So obviously we had to address some sort of interior offensive line position with the retiring of Mr. Pouncey. So obviously I respect the pick kind of thing. Maybe you could have just addressed it a little earlier. Maybe, I don't know. Again, this Steelers draft class was a little bit weird to me, but they always do some wild boy stuff, and it seems to work out more often than not. Kevin Dotson, that's the man I'm looking for. He was from the University of Louisiana. Yes, we drafted him last year, and he worked out pretty well. He's a very good player. So hopefully the Steelers can turn Kendrick Green into also a very good player. Another offensive lineman in Dan Moore from Texas A&M, and then they took another Texas A&M guy 12 picks later, linebacker Buddy Johnson. This guy's a defensive lineman from Wisconsin. This guy's an outside rusher from Miami. I can't remember who Trey Norwood is. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't hate you, Trey.
Oklahoma.
Cornerback, Oklahoma. And then the steal of the draft, baby. Presley Harvin III. This boy is the biggest punter on earth, and I love it. This boy, mad thick, and he's gonna be kicking the crap out of the ball. I'm hype.
I'll give you $1 if you can guess his weight.
Oh, he's like 250 plus.
Oh, I thought you were gonna get it.
I'd say like I'd say 255.
Mother trucker. I owe you $1.
Yeah, baby, let's go. No, he's a thick boy. He can kick the crap out of the ball. It's kind of cool. But yeah, this graphic, which for the visual people, you can't see because it's behind Denver's head. This place leaning does nothing. Denver, it's the block of your camera is in the way.
Oh,
They gave this grade a B minus, and that might be the most kind grade I've ever seen. I'm gonna be real with you. I would probably give this, in terms of like, wow factor and like how you can see these pieces fitting. I gotta give it like a C. I'll say a C. Um,
yeah. I'm gonna be kind and give it a C. I think it's because I don't follow the Steelers. I don't. I know they needed a running back, but outside of that, I didn't know what they needed. And from the way it's been perceived through media and from talking with you, it wasn't a great class.
I
And
think the three best picks from this draft for the Steelers were probably Najee Harris, Kendrick Green, and Quincy Roche. I think Quincy Roche, he said it himself, and obviously most guys are going to say this, but he's like, when he got drafted and then interviewed, he's like, I'm going to be quite frank with you. I thought I was going to be picked a lot higher. And so I've seen a lot of people actually say that they expect him to be one of those day 3 picks that makes the most noise this season. So that makes me kind of excited. Again, he's an edge rusher from the University of Miami, Florida. And so we lost Bud Dupree. We also have Alex Highsmith, who played really well when Bud Dupree went down. But the Steelers really like to rotate guys in at that position, have fresh legs. So hopefully Quincy Roche can be the Alex Highsmith of this year and play behind Alex Highsmith, as it were, and make some impact plays, because obviously I think the other side is pretty well locked down. I don't see TJ Watt slowing down. But
yeah,
obviously the Steelers' pass rush is half of the reason that they're any good. So they have the NFL record for like sacks in the most consecutive games, and it's something absolutely ludicrous.
well, good for the Steelers. Overall, our teams did all right. I mean, my team did better than your team, but that's okay. I just want
Oh,
to
of
point
course.
that
In
out.
terms of initial value, absolutely. Again, the weird part for me is it seems like every year I think to myself, why did the Steelers draft these guys? Like, I feel like they could have done so much better. And we'll get to in a minute. It's like guys they could have taken that I thought were like, could have been like still on the board or whatever. Because we'll also have like some individual picks that we liked from various teams. But at the same time, it's hard to deny the fact that the Steelers front office is one of the best front offices year in and year out in the NFL. And somehow the guys that they find, regardless of their name brand value, they consistently show up and make plays. So we'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic, as I feel like I am every year at this point.
Yeah. And with that, we'll talk about our favorite picks.
For
I'll start
sure.
off. One of my favorite picks was actually a top pick, Kyle Pitts. I love this guy. He is a fast, fast man, and the Atlanta Falcons just got a little bit better
A
at the tight
little
end
bit
position.
better.
So that makes me happy. I saw a lot of hype around this guy. I knew he was going early. Now, was I expecting the Falcons? Maybe. I mean, was I ready for it? No, but I'm glad they got him.
Well, I think it said a lot that, guys like Todd McShay and the other, again, quote unquote, experts in this field, they said if you strip away receiver, tight end, all of that, and you're just like, who's the best pass catcher, like impact player in the draft, it almost 100% had to be Kyle Pitts. The dude is a freak, and if their plan is obviously now to stay with Matt Ryan for a couple more years and see if they can milk another deep playoff run or two out of him, it can't be a bad thing to give him a guy like that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. What was your when you talk about it? What was your favorite draft pick?
Um, I chose to stay with second round picks and later. I'm not gonna lie, but if I'm gonna go with first round picks, um, and like how I kind of see them working out, I guess I would say, I think my favorite, and it kind of is boring, but I think it's Rashawn Slater, the offensive tackle from Northwestern. The Chargers have what looks to be like a generational talent type of dude in Justin Herbert, and they protected him like he was some incredibly invaluable object last year. So anything they could do to shore up that offensive line is a good thing. I'm honestly kind of surprised Rashawn Slater dropped to 13th overall a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I think that was a very solid pick because he's gonna slide in and he's going to start at left tackle day one, no questions asked.
One of my favorite picks, and he wasn't even picked it. He wasn't even
Yikes.
picked in the draft. Was actually a boy from South Dakota State. Was picked up. Cade.
Cade
Oh God.
Johnson.
Yes. For the last like 2 days of the draft, I kept seeing his name as like the fourth best player left
I
available for
honestly,
the Mel
I
Kiper.
know this is going to come across as biased, but based on the way he played at the Senior Bowl and everything I'd seen leading into the draft, I was left incredibly shocked that he was not picked at all. So I didn't mean to cut you off there, but no, I was supremely shocked that he ended up being an undrafted free agent. I thought
I
he would have
think
go in like the 6th round.
Yeah, from the and like I said, the past few days, like the last 2 days of the draft, when I was able to just look at it, it was like the best available player, and he was like the third or fourth best player left. I was like, man, this guy's got to get picked. This guy has got to get picked.
I will say another pick that in the first round, if we want to focus on another first round pick, that I really liked. Maybe the only other guy besides Tevin Jenkins and Najee Harris that I wanted the Steelers to look at was Zaven Collins, the linebacker from Tulsa. Really like him. He ended up going even a little earlier than I thought he might to the Cardinals at 16 overall, but I really like that dude. I really like what the Cardinals are doing in that like defensive backfield in terms of like their back seven. I know that's really not a thing, but you got guys like Buda Baker, Isaiah Simmons, and now Zaven Collins. It's a lot of really athletic dudes roaming the field, making plays. And I know Zaven Collins is different than those other two guys I mentioned, but just the athletes they're putting on the field, I'm a really big fan of.
Another pick that I like mainly because he's a son is Asante Samuel Jr.
I
Uh,
I
I
respect
think
that.
he's I think he is going to be great for the Chargers. The Chargers need a corner. I think he's going to play. He's going to be very talented at that position. I have high hopes for him. So he's another one of those that I'm big on.
The next guy I had on my list was Landon Dickerson, the center from the University of Alabama, who went 37th overall to the Eagles. I think if this guy doesn't have the injury history that he does, he goes in the top 10. And so hopefully, again, you don't know what's going to happen on the injury front, of course, but hopefully he stays relatively injury free in his career. And if he does, I think he's going to be a very good player for a very long time. And you're going to look back and be like, how did that guy go 37th overall?
One my last pick because I didn't there's a lot of picks, so I'm not.
Obviously, I made a small list.
The last guy I looked at was Kyle Trask from Florida. I like him only because he is going to learn from the greatest quarterback of all time, and I think that is an educational thing, and I think being a part of that team is gonna like really help his like development and like coming into after Brady retires.
Probably makes a big difference that the Bucks told Brady they were going to draft a quarterback of the future before they drafted him, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
So
don't know. I don't know what team I would be throwing shade at right there. Um, I'll briefly skip over my second pick. I knew we were going to talk about him anyway, but I got to just say I'm a big fan of that Tevin Jenkins pick, man. Big fucking fan. That's
uh,
high on the board. Really like that pick. Of course, we said it 39th overall to Chicago. One guy who I dropped so far that I thought there was some, I thought maybe he like died or something because I saw no world in which he dropped that far. And I want to say it was like, obviously ESPN runs all these simulations and shit, and they like to pull out wild facts that really you have no idea what's going to happen, but they like to sound smart. And so I'll repeat it to the best of my ability. It was something like there was a 1 or a 0.1% chance that Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the linebacker from Notre Dame, there was like a 1 or a 0.1, I'm not sure which of those it is, percent chance that he dropped past pick 37. And he dropped all the way to 52 and was selected by the Cleveland Browns. And it absolutely fucking pains me to compliment the Browns on anything. But my God, I'm not looking forward to the fact that the Steelers are going to have to play against this guy. Very, very, very talented football player.
That's why he was depressed before the stream started.
Low key, because the thing is, it happens every year, and we'll revisit the Steelers draft very quickly here. The Steelers always draft really obscure guys that like you'd never really even heard of when they played college ball, and it feels like they just pray it works out. Even though I have supreme faith that they have a method, because I feel like that's a lot of dice rolls to get right in a row on complete chance, you know. And then I see the Cleveland Browns are getting better, and they go out and have a fucking banger draft. The Ravens have always been good, and they go out and they have a banger draft. And I'm sitting here like, what in the fuck am I gonna have to endure this season? And
you're gonna feel my pain.
I don't know. I still, every year the Steelers find a way to be completely horrid and completely good at the same time and end up at 500. And of course that is no longer possible since we have a 17-game season. So they will probably finish 9-8 and miss the playoffs, and I'll just be like, well, that was completely uninspiring. That's probably will be what happens. But moving forward, the next guy is another one of my friend's favorite teams. They make this pick. It's Quinn Meinerz, the offensive lineman from Wisconsin Whitewater, going to the Denver Broncos. I'm assuming that if Justin was here, he would really like this pick. This guy's draft tape shows him pushing over trees and shit. He's from Canada, so his workouts are him freaking doing work on like his farm or some shit. He's pushing over trees, he's chopping wood. It's all wild. This guy is a hoss.
This guy is a hoss.
And like I said, the Broncos pick him at 98 overall. And then there was I guess there's a cornerback in here too, so I'll have to break it up. But a few receivers I'm going to talk about in these next few picks. 157th overall, the Vikings. I hate talking about the Vikings too. I think we both do.
Yeah.
But they picked Emir Smith-Marset, a wide receiver from the University of Iowa. And as a Nebraska Cornhusker fan, he literally reamed our ass, I think, every time we played him for the last decade, it feels like. So glad he's gone, and he's going to the Vikings. Think that's a very quality pick. Another pick from a team I hate talking about, the Baltimore Ravens. I feel like we're making a very uncomfortable theme here. They picked a guy a couple of picks before the Steelers that I wanted the Steelers to take, so I was double pissed on this one. Or was it a couple picks after? I don't remember, but either way, I was pissed about it. The Steelers should have taken a slot corner to replace Mike Hilton, and Shaun Wade was that guy from Ohio State, and the Steelers didn't take him, and then the Baltimore Ravens took him at 160th overall, and I'm going to be pissed about it until his career is over, probably.
Watch him pick off Big Ben.
He's an incredible slot like, the reason he fell so far, right, is normally people don't spend high picks on slot corners. And when Shaun Wade moved from slot to outside corner this last year, he kind of sucked. I'm going to be real. He kind of sucked. But when he was in the slot, he was really, really freaking good. He would have been a first-round pick at slot corner if he would have came out a year earlier. But yeah, he went to Baltimore, 160 overall. I was very passionate about that pick. I was very upset because I'm pretty sure the Steelers picked somebody at like 157 or 156. Sorry. And he went at 160. I was very upset. Anyway, another receiver. The Kansas City Chiefs, the rich get richer. Somehow, with the 181st overall pick, they find Cornell Powell, the wide receiver from Clemson. And this dude was kind of a no-name behind like T. Higgins and, oh God, why can't I think of the other guy? The two receivers that played for Clemson when they won the national title a couple years ago. It's Justin something. Anyway, and this guy kind of burst onto the scene this year and caught a lot of passes from the number 1 overall pick, Trevor Lawrence, and is an older guy, so that's probably why he dropped a little bit. But Cornell Powell, he's going to be catching a lot of passes from Patty Mahomes. Demetric Felton. Denver, can you guess who picked this guy?
The Ravens?
The motherfucking Cleveland Browns.
I knew it was one of the two.
Pick 211. He's a wide receiver / running back / everything from UCLA. He goes to the Browns, and that's another guy that when he was available, I'm like, the Steelers should just take a flyer on him. And they were like, nah, we're going to take this guy. Guy I've never heard of, number 3.
Unfortunate.
And then the last pick, I'm sorry I've been rambling a little bit, but I did have a small list, of course. These like 8 names. Brady Breeze.
What a fucking name.
That's a great name, isn't it? That's a great name for about anything, but especially football.
I heard it and I said, "Oh my God, that was our first reaction."
That was a great reaction.
What a fucking name.
Brady Breeze, the safety from the University of Oregon. He goes to Tennessee. Now, he goes at pick 215. Probably not going to see a lot of playing time, but I just loved watching this guy play. He's a freaking big dude for a safety. He's got arms bigger than my neck. And let me tell you guys, I got a thick fucking neck. So this guy, looks like he should be playing middle linebacker if he put on about 20 more pounds.
Don't worry, guys. I got a thick fucking neck. This guy's arms are bigger than my thick fucking neck. And just the way you said it,
This guy's a rip. This guy's a baller. I hope that he gets to see a little bit of playing time. He's probably going to be a special teams demon, I'm going to be honest. But that concludes my little list of picks that I really enjoyed.
And with that, we move from one sport to another.
No.
Oh, we're not done with
Remember, we're talking about the small little topic before we transition to the NBA. What in the fuck are the Jacksonville Jaguars doing? What in the... I'm going to be honest, folks. You obviously, if you've been listening for a little while, you know that of the two of us, I tend to swear just a little bit less. But I've been kind of letting it fly these last couple of minutes because I'm passionate now, and I'm really passionate about this. What is going on in Jacksonville? What is going on?
They looked at 32-year-old Tim Tebow and said, you know what? That's our tight end of the future.
Urban Meyer was like, all right, guys. This guy was my quarterback fucking 15 years ago at the University of Florida. And now he's going to be catching passes from my quarterback again. What is going on? This is not even a political thing, but I'm just going to say it. How in the heck does Tebow take this many years off, go play baseball and kind of suck at it, and somehow get back in the NFL at a completely different position that he's never played, and Colin Kaepernick couldn't find a job? This is mind-blowing to me.
This just goes to show you that the NFL blacklisted Colin Kaepernick. And every time
we're not getting political, but like Colin Kaepernick was like 20 times the NFL quarterback that Tebow was and couldn't find a job. And this boy Tebow leaves, goes, plays a different sports, prays to Jesus a little bit, which maybe helped him here. We don't know. And now comes back and he's going to play tight end.
Okay, now I have a real
Can he even catch? He could barely throw.
How far does Tim Tebow make it along in this?
He doesn't make the active roster. There's no way in shit.
If he makes the active roster and he gets on that field, how many passes does he catch this season?
4.
Okay, first off,
2. You convinced me. 2.
Tim Tebow has to be the slowest tight end in the history of tight ends. He's gonna get out there and go, and like whoever has the luxury of guarding him has to think to their head, I'm gonna get an interception today. He's gonna throw to this man, and I'm gonna pick it off. Like
My favorite thing I've seen on the internet too, right, has been these guys saying, "Well, I think if we're gonna rate him in Madden," which you already know that this conversation is going places if we're talking about Madden. If we're gonna rate Tebow in Madden, I think we got to take the same approach to rating Tebow that we did to rating Gronk when he came back. He took a year off, Gronk did, and we gave him the same rating he had the year prior before he took a year off. So we're going to take Tebow's quarterback rating from 2013, 12, I don't even know. And we're going to give it to him as the tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars right off the rip. Denver, your thoughts?
you got me curious to find out what his actual rating is.
And I bring that up because the only thought that, and this was pointed out by several people in the comments, so good on people because you guys, some of you have a brain. They're somehow comparing arguably the greatest tight end of all time who took one season off from the NFL and then came back to play the exact same position that he was the greatest of all time at, to a guy who played subpar quarterback.
Can you guess what his final Madden rating was?
Oh, I bet it was in the 80s because he was praying to Jesus.
His final quarterback
was probably like 82.
77.
I'm in the ballpark.
Yeah, he did pretty good. All I'm saying
is he was a gold. He was a high gold, mid to high gold.
You know what that means? He's gonna come out and he's gonna be one of those elite silver tight ends you can get right off the rip that everyone runs because he's so good.
No bullshit. Because then the question was posed: what would you rate Tebow? That's the thread that all these comments were on. So I think we have Denver. You and I have played a lot of Madden in our time.
Yeah, unfortunately.
What would you rate Tebow? No bullshit. Straight up. What would you rate Tebow right now?
69.
Okay. Are you just memeing or are you being real?
I'm both. I could use it as a meme, but I really think he's probably going to be a 69.
No. Not what do you think they're going to rate him. What would you rate him?
Oh, what would I rate him?
Yes.
Like, he has to be like a 51.
I was going to say 48. Yeah. I was going to say 48. He's going to be one of those like base bronze players you get right off the rip that is like your fourth string tight end.
He is going to be your starting tight end when when Ultimate Team 2022 happens.
And this is no disrespect, no hate, like in terms of like the person Tim Tebow is. I'm just saying this man hasn't played a competitive football game in. When is the last time he played? You had his stats up. When's the last time he played?
Let me check here.
2013, 2014.
2013 was the last. Yep. 2012, 2013.
It's been 8 years since he played a competitive football game. And these people are out here thinking he's going to be like an 80 overall tight end? Please send us what you are smoking. We would love to try it.
It was December 30th, 2012.
So this man is going to go almost 9 years between competitive football games. I'm mind blown. I don't think we need to dwell on it any further, but like, can we just both agree, and I think we're on the same page here, that the fact that he even is getting a shot is kind of ludicrous?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I agree with you.
We'll just leave it there and moment of silence for Tim Tebow here. All right, moving on. Now, Denver, we're going to switch we're gonna switch sports.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah. Anytime, buddy. I'm glad to be here with you today. This has been a fun one.
Oh, good.
We've just been a little bit off the cuff today, have we not? This has been kind of wild and wacky.
I love this type of stream we do. We set up the topics, but we have nothing going into it.
Oh, this is the best part when we just ad lib what we're gonna say, but we know the subject, but we don't know what the fuck we're gonna say.
Oh man. Okay, so here we go. NBA. We're coming up on the last week of the season. While Dirks may not find it very interesting, the play-in games this year are gonna be phenomenal.
Speaking of those playing games, by the way, I don't have anything up on the screen for them yet, but I will shortly. I'll let you know. By the way, if you could tell me why Twitter keeps doing this, I'd be very happy.
Are you
it's like play. Yeah,
play internet.
It's like they had a good like freaking graphic of like how it works somewhere. Because it's very weird. Yeah, here we go. Now we'll throw this up on the screen. Now it's an incredibly low quality image, so I apologize already, folks. But I'm going to be honest. What kind of convoluted shit is the tournament?
I don't get it.
Would it not make more sense? I mean, like, I get it and I don't at the same time. Would it not make more sense for, like, I don't know.
Okay,
the 7 to play the 10 and the 8 to play the 9.
No, so what they're doing is, so the 7th and 8th are going to ultimately play for the 7th seed, while the 8th, 9th, and 10th seed are going to play for the 8th seed. Now,
well, that's not completely true. So the way this works, because I actually went and studied this, because, ever since the All-Star break, when we first brought this up, we've thought we knew what was happening, and it turns out we had no fucking clue.
Oh, good to know.
So the way it's going to work, we are going to know seeds 1 through 6 on each side of the bracket, both for the West and the East.
Okay.
The 7th place team and the 8th place team play each other.
Okay.
The winner of that game gets the 7 seed.
Yes.
The 9th and the 10th place team play each other.
Okay.
The winner of that game plays the loser of the 7th and 8th place game. And then the winner of that game gets the 8th seed.
You know what? I thought Adam Silver was a great commissioner. But this is, you are right. This is the most convoluted, backwards bullshit. You could have.
Here's the way you do it, 100%. And you can hate me if you want. You do the same thing you kind of did last year. You have, except on the bigger scale, if you want to include 4 teams on each side. You have the 7th place team play the 10th place team. The 10th place team has to beat the 7th place team twice. The 7th place team has to win 1 game. The winner of that series, if you will, gets a spot. The 8th and the 9th place teams do the same thing. And then whoever ends up winning both of those, again, we'll say series, you then seed them based on their record during the regular season.
Yeah, that's logical. This is to confuse the viewer.
This is wild, right? This is going to take days to play out. Because then you need, well, like, they're obviously going to play both these games on the same night, the first place games, but then it'll probably be like the very next night. One of these teams is going to have to fly to Timbuktu to play the other one, and I don't even know. It's a little weird. It's a little wonky. We'll see how it plays out, of course. Maybe it'll be that simple. Maybe the 7th place team will beat the 8th place team, and then the 7th place team will beat the 9th place team, and we'll just get the or the 8th place team will then beat the 9th place team, and we'll just get the 7th and 8th seed like we normally would, and it won't be convoluted at all. But yeah, it's very odd to me.
Do these play-in games start this week then? Because
It looks right up here that they're May 18th through the 21st.
oh, I didn't even see that because the actual playoffs start the 22nd, and I was like, when do these take place? But that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's all right, because the playing games are going to be fun. If we go to the standings, they're going to be some
Oh, in
fun
terms of the
games.
actual games, yeah, but like how we're gonna
Yeah.
get to the bracket, Adam Silver was smoking the good on this one, man. Fuck. All right, but now we'll look at the teams vying for these spots, and this is where it gets a little interesting. I feel like some weird shit has happened, even though we've tried to keep up with the NBA a little bit.
Yeah, so some things have escalated now. What conference are we looking at first? The Eastern Conference?
We'll start with the East.
Okay. So, this is up to date.
This is what I pulled up on ESPN just now. Yes.
Okay. So somehow the Knicks dropped from the 4th seed to the 6th seed.
It's because they lose the tiebreaker to these two teams, I think.
Yes.
But 4 through 6 are all tied at 38 and 31,
which is insane. So you could possibly, I think the 1 through 6 on the East is good now.
It's locked. I'm pretty sure there's only 2 or 3 games left in the season, right, for each team.
Yeah. So this is locked. So when you go down to those play-in games, the Wizards have come back from insanity, from being a garbage team to somehow making it into the play-in.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I have not watched a minute of real-time Wizards basketball this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to go out on a limb, and it's going to be because Bradley Beal scores a fuck ton of points. That's probably why they win games.
Yes. And
of course, we have to acknowledge Russell Westbrook just became the all-time leading triple-double guy, so we have him stat padding. That's probably another reason why they win.
So we get the Pacers, Wizards, okay? The Wizards are exciting. I'm excited. But then Boston versus Charlotte.
Let's be real. Boston just fucking sucks.
You know, my buddy Hayden, who I literally talked to today because I give him so much shit about the Celtics. Dude, I'm telling you, he's like the Steelers, but with the Boston Celtics. He just loves them to death no matter what they do. They lost last night. And I was sending him texts about how trash the Celtics are. And I truly don't believe that they will beat the Charlotte Hornets. So Boston, I don't think can beat the Hornets, especially because LaMelo Ball is actually good.
Well, didn't Jaylen
Brown went out.
Jaylen Brown is out for the season now, yeah, right?
Yeah, torn ligament in his wrist. So he had to get that fixed. So that plays a huge factor. And I think the East is going to be really good, but when we get to the West,
I think we've talked about it too, right? And it's something that we've glossed over. Is Indiana Boston's in the running too, but is Indiana like the most disappointing good team in the NBA this season or what? I think Boston's also in the running. Like Indiana has some freaking good players, man. They have Miles Turner, right? Still, their starting lineup is
no. Miles Turner's gone.
He's gone.
Who the fuck does he play for?
Well, this shows how much I've kept up with the NBA this season. I don't care until playoff time. I'm going to be honest with you. But I know they have it. Domantas Sabonis, Malcolm Brogdon, and T.J. Warren.
Oh no, he's still there.
Okay.
He's still there.
Well,
I thought he was a part of that big trade with Victor Oladipo.
Gotcha. And it's like that team has so many good players on it, but somehow they just don't win games, and I don't know how that works. And again, haven't studied, so maybe they just have a fundamental flaw with how they're playing. But
it's because they got a lot of youth on their team. It's not a very experienced team. It's a good team, but it's not very experienced.
Gotcha. Okay, so this is we're looking at that, and so let's just say so we think Charlotte beats Boston.
Yep.
So Charlotte gets the 7 seed.
And they get routed by the Knicks.
Okay, who do we think wins Washington, Indiana?
I think Washington.
Okay, Washington, Boston. For the 8th seed.
Oh, I'm gonna say Washington.
So Denver thinks it's going to be Charlotte and Washington. I think it's going to be Charlotte and Indiana
That would be good, but I still think
for
the
the
Wizards
7th and
are.
8th seed in the East. Apparently, the Bulls with a loss or a win by the Wizards are mathematically out of it, but they haven't technically been eliminated yet. They could still
I
make it if the Wizards lose out and the Bulls win out.
Technicalities.
But yes, moving on to the West real quick. Another
Ooh,
wild
yeah.
bit here. Again, we still have the Jazz and the Suns have impressed everybody to see. Like they've just won a shitload of games. The surprise here, and this is not me trying to take a jab at you. This is just genuine surprise. How are the Lakers the 7th seed? I know that obviously AD and LeBron have missed a lot of time, but like
Do you want to know the real reason?
bad looks. Sure, if you want to tell me.
That is the reason, the injuries. LeBron has missed 23 out of the last 25 games. So
Injury prone.
they don't have a ball handler because Dennis Schroeder is out with COVID restrictions. He's out until the start of the playoffs. And we just have a lot of we have no leadership on the court. Like AD's there, but he's not a primary ball handler, so that makes it really hard for him. Like we're relying on Talen Horton-Tucker and Alex Caruso, who are great players, not great, they're good players for what they're there
what they're
for.
asked to do, yeah.
Yeah, but when it's like, hey, you're going to be asked to primarily handle the ball the entire game, and Alex Caruso stubbed his toe last night in the game and went out after 7 minutes.
Damn.
So so here's how it's gonna play out.
I'm gonna be real with you. Just in terms of the way the Lakers are looking, I know that they're gonna have probably LeBron and AD, or at least one of the two.
They're gonna have both back, yeah.
The Warriors are probably, if you had to rank teams that if you have to play one game against them, the Warriors are like in the top 3 for teams that you do not want to fucking play for one game.
Exactly. It's either the Lakers are going to have to rout them from early on, or they are going to lose, and I'm going to cry.
Because you cannot discount the possibility of Steph just putting up like a 45 bomb and not missing a shot. And so for that reason, this honestly did not, like the Lakers did themselves absolutely zero favors by dropping this far, because they could very easily in a one game and done type of scenario lose that first game to the Warriors, and then obviously they're better than all 3 of these teams that they're in the play-in against. That's not even like, I'm not even trying to argue that at all. But then all of a sudden, if you lose that game to the Warriors, you put yourself in like the butthole clenching scenario of if you slip up and have an off game, you don't even make the playoffs with LeBron and AD.
Crazy. That's fucking crazy. It's fucking insane. See, here's what I think is going to happen. The Lakers are going to end up winning. Here's what I really think is going to happen. I think the Lakers are the best bet still out of the West, which is insane to say. Like, when you look at it, Dallas is too inconsistent. Portland can get hot, but they have to stay hot. Denver has looked really good with Michael Porter Jr. Jamal Murray has gone out. I'm not dissing Denver at all, but I think they're still missing just that like one piece, and I don't know what it is. The Clippers are fine, I guess.
But I think I see what you're saying, and I would tend to agree with you that I think probably of all these teams, the Lakers have the highest ceiling.
Yeah.
But I also tend to think they have one of the lowest floors.
Oh, it's gonna be wild.
Is that unfair of me to say?
No, it's not, because like
I feel like a lot of these other teams, at least if you're looking at the top 4, right? Portland and Dallas can be a little hit or miss too, but if you're looking at the top 4 at least, I feel like all those teams operate in a fairly narrow window. Like, you know what you're probably going to get like basically every night from all 4 of those teams. And it's like they're gonna play within that window, and if you beat them, cool, and if you don't, like it just happens because they're good teams, right?
Mhm.
But the Lakers, it's more like if this is the window for those teams, the Lakers window is more like this,
Yeah.
where it's like if the Lakers play up here, there's not a team in the West that can touch them. But if you lower that and like they play the top of the previous window to like their floor, that again butthole clenching scenarios. And the hard part, right, is if any like I think a lot of these teams are capable of like drawing out a series at least
Mm-hmm.
with LA, and the fact that they don't have home court advantage, and I know there's like either minimal fans or no fans at most of these places,
Mm-hmm.
but you're still having to go on the road, and you can say there's no home court advantage, but when you take a look and you see that Utah and Phoenix both haven't lost double-digit games at home this season, home court tends to mean something.
Look, we have to wrap this up.
Oh, of course we do.
But the last thing I will say is I have not thought about the playoffs in detail yet. But talking about them just in this little short
You're
time,
sweating a little bit, aren't you? You're like, oh Jesus.
I'm getting anxious, okay? I feel my armpit sweating like for reals because I'm like, bro, we should go back to back. But like there are so many just like little bitty, like you said, what if you run into like a game Steph drops like 43?
That's what I'm saying, dude. They've put
Andrew
themselves
Wiggins drops
they've put
25.
themselves in a weird spot where like their margin for error now is legitimately zero.
Oh,
But it's gonna be fun. I'm sure we'll try to fit in another podcast yet, like, and we like make a formal like kind of like NBA playoff preview prediction type podcast.
I would like to do one probably. Let's do like the day we know like the official 1 through 8 seeds.
Yeah,
Like, because then we
that
could
would be
talk
like
about like
that'd be like
game.
next Friday/Saturday. Yeah.
Yes, and Brittany is gonna. So
Cool.
cool.
Well, that's it for what we have to regularly talk about. Again, no weekend podcast this week. I am southbound, going to Frisco, Texas for the FCS Football National Title game. I'm really hoping and praying for
Go
a
Jacks.
Jackrabbit W. We got Denver rooting for a Jackrabbit W. Denver, just tell the people, as the FCS expert that you are, what do you like?
Yes.
What do you like most about the South Dakota State Jackrabbits?
The one very fun play I saw was where they threw to the receiver and then the receiver threw back to the quarterback and somehow he ran like
yes.
25 yards. I love your guys' quarterback. He's fun to watch.
He's got
man.
some charisma, don't he? That boy's got some moxie.
He is my favorite. Go Jacks. Hit it out of the park. Fucking score 80 touchdowns.
Are you going to be watching if you can?
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be watching. Will you tell me if I'm on the TV?
Yeah.
And if my hair looks good. I think it's supposed to rain a shit ton in Frisco. Like there's thunderstorms.
Oh, you're not
and
gonna
stuff.
wear. You're not gonna wear a hat.
Probably not. Maybe we'll see. Maybe I'll wear the hat I'm wearing right now. Obviously, I had to rep them on the pod today.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw you change it out when we got off the.
I mean, to be fair, the other hat I was wearing was also SDSU, but this one's more bold.
I like how you bold.
But yes, go Jacks. This has been a fun podcast. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. A lot of energy. Denver, do you want to do the social media stuff or do you want me to handle it?
Oh my God, it's the social media Denver we get to see. All right, Twitter at Dierks and Denver Pod, right?
Yes.
That's her Twitter. Okay, good, because I always mess that one up. YouTube,
Well,
Spotify.
he was close, folks. There's no and. It's just Dierks Denver Pod.
Okay. YouTube, Spotify, and not even just Spotify. All streaming platforms besides Apple's.
True.
You get Dierks and Denver Podcast. You go there, you look us up, you can listen to us. We appreciate the feedback and the comments. Like Dierks mentioned earlier, thanks for coming out last time when we were doing a live stream to something. I would like to do that again to something at some point. I don't know what. We'll figure it out. But go follow us on there. DM us. We like the DMs. Message us on YouTube. That's fun. You had
Comment,
a
like,
comment.
subscribe. Basically, do whatever you would normally do to support the big creators, but support us small creators too. We enjoy doing this. It's a lot of fun. Denver, you knocked that social media plug out of the park. I'm proud of you, buddy. You keep getting better at it. Look at that swing, folks. We should talk about the MLB sometime. That's to be determined. Denver and I, neither of us are the biggest baseball guys. Denver is like a 0% baseball guy. I'm like, baseball's okay, and I'll watch it if there's nothing else on. But folks, that's going to do it for this episode of the Dierks and Denver Podcast. Thank you so much for watching. Wherever you are and wherever you're going, take care, and we'll see you next time. See ya.